Hello and welcome back to Fallout 76. Once again, it's time to try our luck at the Lucky Pick Casino. And this weekend, we've got the Purveyor's Mystery Pick, which means for 60 Legendary Scrip, you will get a 3-star item. You just don't know what type of item it will be until you buy it, which it can be armor, power armor, ranged weapon, or a melee weapon. So it's just kind of a grab bag of what you can get. My character is close to the script limit, so what I'm going to do is spend 3,000 Legendary Scrip, which means I will get 50 items. And I'm hoping for something either cool I can use or something with good effects that I can save for later when the Legendary Crafting System overhaul comes and I can scrap it to try and learn some mods. So let's get right into it. The first mystery pick is going to be what? Exterminator's Raider Power Right Arm with radiation resistance and junk weight reduction. Okay, so... yeah, Exterminators, I mean, it is power armor, so you don't really need anything on that first star giving you really any kind of benefit at all. But as part of a mix and match set, maybe you want to do enemy resistance, vary it up, or enemy reduction rather. So Exterminators could be part of that. Radiation resistance, I think, is pretty much wasted on power armor since you already get radiation resistance built in and radiation reduction built in. So that's not something I'd really want. Junk item, weight reduced, could be useful if you like to... if you're going on a scrap run or something, if you have Fallout First, I have Fallout First, so I can basically put a tent down wherever. So that's not really super useful. So we start out with some script. Next up, we've got Ghoul Slayer's Ultra Sight right leg. I hope I don't get just all power armor with +1 luck and radiation recovery. All right, so +1 luck, that's really only going to be useful if you are, if you're a VATS build using critical hits, which doesn't go very well with power armor. You just will end up burning through fusion cores like crazy. Ghoul Slayers, ghouls basically, most of their damage comes from radiation, melee and radiation. You get a ton of radiation resistance from your power armor, and yeah, melee is just not going to do a lot. So of all the enemy resistance, Ghoul Slayers is probably the least useful, and radiation recovery is fine. I happen to use Whatrad, so I don't really need that. So again, I have 3 stars on a piece of armor I'm not going to be using. Next, we've got an Auto Stim Urban Scout Armor left leg with poison resistance and increased size of the sweet spot while picking locks. Okay, so Auto Stim, if I'm going to do that, I'd rather have Born Survivor. I mean, that's fine. Auto Stim is okay. It has a chance to, well, it doesn't have a chance. It will automatically stim you, when your health hits 25% every 60 seconds. So it does have a cooldown. So if you're taking a lot of damage, it's not super useful. But if you're just taking damage once in a while, sure, it could be helpful. Poison Resist, I find to be fairly useful. And that last one, I use, I either use Master Infiltrator or I don't care about lockpicking at all. So either way, that 3rd star just isn't something I really ever want. All right, so far we have power armor and armor. So let's maybe get a weapon this time. Hey, there we go, that's a weapon. Ghoul Slayer's Cultist Blade with melee damage while not moving and +1 agility. Yeah, enemy specific on weapons, just not something I really ever want. Extra melee damage while not moving is okay, although when I play melee, I tend to not stand still. So that star wouldn't really be helpful to me. I'd rather have extra power attack damage or extra swing speed. And +1 agility, not really something I'm looking for either on a melee weapon. I'd rather have +1 strength, or when the new update comes, +1 endurance could also be helpful. So yeah, this is just a swing and a miss. That's all we're getting so far. Next up, we've got a Bloodied Harpoon Gun with extra critical damage and bonus VATS critical charge. Well, actually, that's a good combination of effects. Bloodied, if you're playing low health, that is a very good effect. Your damage can go up to 95%. Extra critical damage, if you are playing in VATS, that is, and using critical hits, that's a very good star. And that 3rd star, goes very nicely with it. It means your luck doesn't necessarily have to be, up to 33. I think 24 luck is the threshold for that with the VATS, with the bonus critical charge. So good combination of effects. Not my favorite gun, but it's still a good combination of effects. Next up, we've got an Assassin's Arctic Marine Armor left arm with fire resistance and ammo weight reduction. Ammo weight reduction could actually be kind of useful, especially if you run a mix of ballistic and energy guns. That way, because there's 2 different perks for that. There's batteries included and there's bandolier. So this can actually help offset 2 different perks, which I like that. Fire resistance, that is... there's not a ton of fire damage in this game, but there's enough that fire resistance is definitely something that I look to have on at least 1 or 2 pieces of armor. And assassins, not so much. I'm not usually looking for extra damage or extra help against human enemies. They're just not that strong. And unfortunately, this is not tradable either. Yeah, so far the only mystery is why I would put myself through this, but on we go. Nocturnal Pickaxe with melee damage reflection while blocking and less damage taken while blocking. The best thing I could say about this is the 2nd and 3rd stars actually go together. They're just not stars that I ever want. I've never blocking in this game just isn't a very good mechanic, just generally. So it's not something I've tried doing it. I've actually tried blocking, and Skyrim has better blocking. This just isn't that great, so I don't ever use it. And Nocturnal is extra damage half the time, so this is a throwaway. Yeah, for the most part, I'm not even getting effects for things that, not even effects that I generally even want to know. So let's get something better. There we go, Bloodied Submachine Gun with extra limb damage and chance to become invisible. Okay, that 3rd star, I just don't see it as being beneficial at all. Limb damage is fine if you're looking to cripple things. If you're not, then it isn't useful at all. Bloodied, good if you're playing low health, but this is basically a 1 star. Next up, we've got a Suppressor's Pitchfork. Man, these are terrible. Melee damage reflection while blocking, +1 strength. I'm not even referring to the weapons, just the effects are just awful. So suppressors, I just think the effect just doesn't last long enough to be useful, and honestly, for the most part, you really don't need it. Now, +1 strength is good. That translates directly into extra melee damage, but again, damage reflection while blocking, I don't ever block, and I don't know anybody that does, so that's just not a useful effect. Next up, we've got Anti-Armor, Mr. Handy Buzzblade with melee damage reflection while blocking, and weapon breaks slower. Okay, Anti-Armor, one of my favorite effects, so I do like that. Melee damage reflection while blocking. Yeah, it's just not a good effect. Weapon breaks slower. I haven't used Buzzblades enough to know if they actually break, if they break quickly or not. I actually don't know. I don't know if that's a good star on this weapon or not. Generally, you'd want reduced AP cost on something like this, though, because it does drain your AP whenever you're using it. So I think reduced AP is kind of the winner on a Buzzblade for a 3rd star. Next, we've got a Mutant Secret Service left leg, +1 luck, breaks slower. Yeah, I'm not usually looking for extra resistance on my armor. I'd rather have damage reduction. So really Overeaters, or maybe something like Troubleshooters or Mutant Slayers. And I actually do use Secret Service armor on this character, so kind of interesting. Although what I have is not perfect, it's way better than that. +1 luck, okay if you're playing VATS, it can actually help you do critical hits more often. And break slower, you know, if I was playing melee, that might be useful, but I'm not. I'm a ranged character, so the armor doesn't break all that quickly. So this is just right back into the Scrip machine. Next up, we've got a Juggernaut's Drill with extra critical damage and less damage taken while blocking. I don't block, so that 3rd star might as well not be there. Juggernaut's mid-tier effect, and not really a very good one, I don't think. Extra critical damage, that's a star I like. Critical hits don't work so well on melee weapons for the most part. They don't seem to do extra damage, so yeah, for the most part, this is just 3 stars I'm not interested in. Next up, we've got a Mutant Shish Kebab with extra critical damage, +1 agility. Ooh, okay. Mutants, extra damage, 25% more damage if you are mutated, so that is good. Well, up to 25 if you are mutated. Extra critical damage, I don't find it, to me it seems like it's broken on melee weapons, so not something useful, although that is a good effect to learn. I mean, that is the thing. So this is light enough, I could save it and scrap it later to try and learn that extra, that 2nd star. +1 agility, that's just not really a special that I'm ever looking to have on weapons. We've got a Chameleon Metal right leg, +1 agility, food, drink, and chem weight reduced by 20%. So that 3rd star could actually be useful because there are 1 card for, Traveling Pharmacy, that is chem weight reduction, and Through Hiker for food weight reduction. So this can actually take the place of 2 different perk cards, that particular star. So that could actually be useful. +1 agility, it can add to stealth a little bit, but overall I'm looking for other stars, as a 2nd star on armor. Chameleon, I know some people like it for stealth. Personally, I like to be able to see my character. I like to be able to see my gun. So I really don't like the Chameleon effect. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just isn't something that I want. Metal armor is okay. It's very unbalanced. It's very high in ballistic and very low in energy. So it's good for mixing. Like if you want to mix it with, say, leather, I think it pairs very nicely to get kind of a balanced effect. But overall, this is just not, this would be something I'd look to scrap maybe for later, but it's not something I would use. Now we've got an Exterminator's Gauss pistol with last round and +1 agility. Okay, so I'm not ever looking for specials on my ranged weapons. Last round, I just don't think is a very good effect. And Exterminators is enemy specific. And the Gauss pistol, just a weapon that I'm just not thrilled with. Even though I've tried repeatedly to like this weapon, I just find it very buggy and don't like it. Next, we've got a Furious Tenderizer with extra limb damage +1 agility. This is a slow weapon. You can actually see it says slow under speed. So slow doesn't really go with Furious, and this is also a pretty high damage weapon. I mean, that damage number is not very high, but my character is not a melee character. My strength is very low, so any damage numbers on a melee weapon are just not going to look very good. Furious can actually hit pretty hard, but it does swing very slowly, so just Did I say Furious? I meant to say that if I said Furious, the Tenderizer, the Tenderizer hits very hard, but it swings very slowly. So Furious is not a very good effect on it. You'd rather have something like Vampire, Anti-Armor, Aristocrats, just something that does more damage or gives you more of a benefit. And +1 agility is not the star you want on a melee weapon. You'd rather have +1, right now, +1 strength, or maybe even reduced AP if you use it in VATS. But yeah, overall, this is just not good. Next up, we've got a Junkie's Harpoon Gun with weapon speed and damage resist while aiming. 3rd star, not really useful. Weapon speed, these fire 1 shot and then reload. So yeah, weapon speed isn't useful. If you fire 1 shot, and I mean, faster reload would be good, but weapon speed isn't really useful on a single shot weapon. So I'm not even sure why that would be possible. I mean, I guess you could roll quad, and that would be why. But yeah, so that's not really useful. Junkies, that could be good if you have addictions. I don't, so this is just, I'm getting a lot of heavy stuff. That's what I'm getting, a lot of heavy stuff that's destined to go back in the Scrip machine. Next up, we've got Exterminator's Marine Armor left leg with radiation resistance, breaks slower. Now, one thing about armor is the legs do seem to break quicker than other parts. I guess they just absorb all the damage for some reason. So if you're gonna have break slower in armor, I want it to be on a leg. Radiation resistance is okay. This doesn't have, I think only the torso on Marine has radiation built in. I don't think any of the other pieces do. So, you know, extra radiation resistance on it could be a good star depending on, you know, how you play. But we've got Exterminators, which is less damage from bugs and insects, which isn't all that desirable of an effect. I gotta say, it's hard analyzing these things on the fly when they're the mystery pick, since it could be a weapon, any kind of weapon or any kind of armor or power armor. So there's a lot more moving pieces here. So this is, it's making my brain hurt, but let's keep going. Chameleon, T45 left leg, AP regen, junk weight reduction. Okay, Chameleon, I mean, I don't know. I do see people sneak into power armor every once in a while, and I do think it's funny. But for the most part, if I'm in power armor, I don't really care if the enemy sees me. AP regen, that's always a good star, whether it's power armor or regular armor. So that's a really desirable effect. Junk weight reduction, I think in terms of weight reduction, weapon weight is probably king for most people. And second place would probably be food, drink, and chem weight. I don't see a lot of people looking for junk weight. I know I never am. Next up, we've got a Medic's Electro Enforcer with melee damage reflection while not blocking. What about swing speed? How come we haven't seen swing speed? And less damage taken while power attacking. Okay, so Electro Enforcer is actually pretty fun. It's not, well, wait, are they tradable now? I know the other alien weapons are tradable. I don't remember if this one is or not. Medics isn't that great though. Damage taken or reflection while blocking, that's not a good star since nobody blocks, but that 3rd star is good if you do power attack. So the 3rd star is good, the rest of it is kind of a waste. Next up, we've got a Mutant Slayer's Gauss Pistol with bash damage, chance to become invisible. Yeah, I really don't have anything new to say on this, so we're just gonna move on. Next up, we've got a Nocturnal Robot chest piece with +1 endurance and junk weight reduction. So I think endurance, just in general, is going to be a much more desirable star when the legendary crafting, when the legendary crafting overhaul comes, because endurance will go to +3. Plus, with the extra perk card, the changes to the perk card system, there's all kinds of benefits to having higher endurance. So I think that's going to be a very desirable star to have on your armor. Nocturnal, though, it's extra resistance at night, and I don't want part-time effects. Give it to me all the time or never. And junk weight reduction, I'm not interested in that. I do like the endurance though. Next up, we've got a Bloodied Cultist Dagger with, oh geez, that 2nd star keeps showing up. It's terrible. Less melee damage or melee damage reflection while blocking. Nobody blocks. +1 endurance. At some point, it might be desirable. At the moment, it's not. So I would call this a 1 star. So far, this is just really painful. Mystery picks are just pain and misery. So let's just keep it going. Regenerating Sturdy Leather right leg, +1 endurance, chance to reduce damage while not moving. So that is the Sentinel effect. I think that's, it says right there, Sentinel effect. So I know there's a lot of people that like that effect. It can be useful in something like Daily Ops if you have a full set of that and you have to just stand there and take it for a bit. +1 endurance, I think endurance is gonna be so, I think that's going to be so desirable. So I think I'm just going to hang on to anything that has endurance and hold it until it's time to scrap. So I do like that. Regenerating, regenerating's okay, I guess. It's going to heal you, but it's passive, right? So it doesn't heal you when it's passive, and it only works outside of combat. So if you are engaged in combat taking damage, it really doesn't do anything. And so I'd rather have a star that actually will do something for me all the time, like Overeaters or even Mutant Slayers, something like that. So this is something I'll save to scrap for later. And we've got a Mutant's T65 right leg, +1 strength, chance to reduce damage while not moving. Now, that Sentinel effect on power armor, I mean, power armor is so strong, especially T65. I think T65 has bigger numbers than anything else. Not that the big numbers matter so much as the damage reduction you get, but yeah, it's, and mutants gives you extra resistance, which you don't really need on power armor either. So this has got, I mean, if you're playing melee, +1 strength, I guess, is okay. And it has some desirable effects, +1 strength, and that 3rd star is pretty desirable. But power armor is just so heavy that there's just no way I'm going to save this to scrap for later. I'm going to put it in the Scrip machine as soon as I can. Next up, we've got an Assassin's Hellstorm missile launcher with extra critical damage, damage resist while reloading. I was actually playing with the Hellstorm the other day. I decided to use the new legendary crafting system where I could customize one, and with the right combination of effects, they are a lot of fun. I will say that. This is not the right combination of effects. Assassins, extra damage against humans, you don't need it. Damage resist while reloading, again, unless you're playing without armor, that's just not a useful effect. Extra critical damage, though, that is useful. But overall, this is just going back into the Scrip machine. Now we've got a Furious Sheep Squatch Club with extra limb damage and +1 strength. +1 strength, that's a really good star on melee weapons, so I do like that. Furious, though, this is a medium speed weapon, but it's just not fast enough that Furious is useful. Plus, it has a pretty high damage. So you're going to kill stuff in 1 or 2 shots anyway, so you're going to get very little benefit from Furious. It's just not good. Furious is pretty much only good on something you can attack with really quickly and doesn't have... And you're not going to kill with really quickly. So this is just not that. Extra limb damage, unless I can target, limbs and VATs, it's just not something I want. I want faster swing speed or power attack damage. So this is Scrip. Next up, we've got a Mutants Prototype Exo-1 right arm, +1 charisma and radiation recovery. Mutants is extra damage resistance, which you just do not need with power armor. I don't care what anybody says. +1 charisma, I mean, if you're shopping, that's great. Other than that, it's not really all that useful. Radiation recovery could be useful depending on your case. I have what rad, so for me, it's really not any kind of benefit. So overall, this is just 3 stars I don't want. Next up, we've got an instigating gamma gun with weapon speed and damage resist while reloading. So that 3rd star is good if you are playing without armor. Other than that, it's not super useful. Weapon speed could be okay. This does have a pretty high fire rate though, so I'm not sure that I would really want weapon speed on this. It could be automatic or semi-automatic, so yeah, it has a high fire rate anyway, so I don't know that I would ever want weapon speed on this gun. Instigating could be... This has splash damage though, because it has like a wide area of effect. I don't think instigating is really something you want either, because you could actually get splash damage on nearby enemies, and then you're just not legendary with that 1st star. So yeah, this is just not a combination I want on this weapon. Next up, we've got a cloaking ultrasight right leg with cryo resist and less damage taken while blocking. Oh, this is awful. Okay, so cloaking, I think cloaking is just the dumbest effect. When a melee enemy hits you, you have a chance to become, is it a chance? No, when you're hit, you become invisible. To me, it seems like when you get hit, they know where you are. So I don't think that there's any benefit to that becoming invisible. Cryo resist, if it slowed you, when you're in a daily op and they have the freezing effect and they could slow you down, if cryo protected you from that, then I think it would be useful, but it doesn't. So I don't really think it is. And less damage taken while blocking, well, we don't block. So yeah, overall, this is just, this is garbage. Next up, we've got a Zealot's Drill. Oh, we finally have weapon speed on a weapon. Oh, there we go. And a weapon that we don't really want weapon speed on. A melee weapon we don't want weapon speed on. So, and reduced AP cost. So on a drill, you really want, in fact, any of the auto melee weapons, what you really want is power attack damage, because I don't think weapon speed does anything other than it may make it look faster, but it doesn't actually give you a benefit. So you want power attack damage. Reduced AP cost, that's a good effect, especially if you're playing in VATs, or actually, I guess this burns AP all the time. So that's a good effect on an auto melee weapon, but Zealots is not, it's enemy specific, and I just don't want that on weapons. But because it has weapon speed and AP cost, and it is lightweight, this is something I will save to scrap when the legendary crafting overhaul comes around. All right, next up, we've got Hellcat's, Hunter's Hellcat right arm. +1 agility and chance to deal fire damage. I do like that. I like those stars on power armor because enemies, I don't sneak, so enemies do tend to get close and so they'll hit you and whatever. So those 3rd stars that give you a chance to do damage to melee attackers, I think they're kind of fun. However, when I'm wearing power armor, I tend to like weapon weight reduction anyway, just because I like to loot and just pick up everything. So I think that's a fun star, but it wouldn't be what I would go for. +1 agility, not usually what I'm going for in a power armor character. Rather have poison resistance or fire resistance or AP refresh, something like that. Hunters, less damage from animals, part of a mix and match set if you want to go that way. But overall, this is just not something I'm looking to save, even to scrap for later. And it looks like, mercifully, we are at the end. So this will be the very last pick, and I am glad this is over. This has been just a lot of awfulness. And we've got a Furious Gatling Plasma with limb damage, 90% reduced weight. Well, it's lightweight, which I like. Furious almost fits with this. It has a high fire rate. The thing about Gatling Plasma, though, is they actually do really nice damage. So, yeah, you're still going to kill stuff pretty quickly. So I don't think you're going to get a lot of benefit from Furious on a weapon like this. It's just, it would be better suited to, say, a minigun. And limb damage, I mean, if you want to cripple into a crowd, that could be okay, but you're probably looking for faster fire rate, damage while aiming, something like that. So yeah, this is just really, well, I guess it's not heavy because it's 90% reduced weight. So this is just lightweight Scrip. So like most mystery pick weekends, that was rather painful, but hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, place it one of the buttons, and I hope you'll join me in the next one. Thank you very much.